Alright, so in today's video, I decided to get 100% on Alan Wake 2. This game is one of the most cinematic games I've ever played, and I platinumed it just over a year ago, almost to the dot. But the real reason I decided to do this today is because Alan Wake 2 is coming to the monthly games this month, and if you haven't already played it, I would highly recommend because it's a banger. Now, for the 100%, there's obviously the main game, which I've already done. Then there is the 2 DLCs. I also already have done one of them, that being Night Springs. So all I have to do today is the final DLC, the Lake House, consisting of just 10 more trophies, bringing the total up to 89. So starting off the Lake House DLC on Alan Wake 2, it's a very fast DLC, and the guide says 3 hours, but it only took me about 1 to finish completely. There also is technically missable trophies, and most are combat, but there is one that requires you to watch an in-game video that happens after a story beat. Aside from that, there's then just a few collectibles to grab, and the other trophies are just from beating the DLC itself. You can also play on the easiest difficulty and with a few other buffs to help make it even easier for us. Now finally, before I do begin just talking about it, I did all of this in one go if you're wondering, and I did not miss anything. So that stage 2 being optional truly is just optional. Anyways, this is also a part of a challenge where I'm trying to win 100% my profile on PlayStation, and there's a grand total of over 140 games I need to finish. The goal is to do them all before the channel hits 1.15 million subscribers, or else I lose another challenge on the channel. So if you want to speed up the challenge, making it harder, then make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Alright, so stage 1, the full playthrough, aiming for all of the trophies. The Lake House DLC surrounds FBC agent Kiran Estevaz, who is a returning character from the main campaign and one of the major focuses of Alan Wake 2 in general, as she investigates a Federal Bureau of Control, that being the FBC's research facility located near Cauldron Lake. Now, I've also platinumed Control in the past, which is a tie-in game for the Alan Wake 2 universe, and after playing that, regardless of it making little sense, it did clear up a lot of my confusion just overall regarding what the FBC is, the whole villain of the Alan Wake universe, and all the mystery in general, so I actually do really appreciate that game looking back at it. But the intro cutscene shows Agent Estevaz pulling up to the Lake House, which is the facility that monitors paranormal activity in Cauldron Lake, and we all know how troubled that damn place is. And for some more lore, this also happened before the events of Alan Wake 2, so it's kind of like a prequel chapter to the main game, which is neat to look at it like that. Anyways, you were also joined by a team of other agents, but they all got sent to just investigate around the area and not so much inside the belly of the beast as we do. But just using a key card that we already had let us inside no problem. And that's kind of the main goal of the DLC, to just get better and higher tier key cards off of the no longer living, because we need to reach floor -5, which is where the major anomaly is happening. But to get down there, it took a lot of exploring, as you would expect, and the story unfolded as that went about. After a little bit of collectible grabbing for those few collectible trophies, you then head down the elevator to the depths below, or just floor -1. Crazy how much difference one level makes in this place. But on the way, the supernatural anomalies began, and you get very much spooked, leaving Estevez attempting to call out and request backup, but I don't think it went through because we are in the dark place now. After some disturbing imagery, you then take the reins again, and inside of this level, we got introduced immediately to a new type of enemy, or at least we will get introduced to them, that being the paint people. If you can't already tell, the area is covered in random abstract paint on walls that would be worth millions in lucrative brain-dead European art shows, #money laundering. But you also have to do a power puzzle, and I can't recall if this was a thing in the base Alan Wake 2 game or not, but after just moving this bright-ass battery that must weigh just insane amounts, you then flip the switch on and get the first trophy of the DLC called Fault in the System. A few moments after, I then reached a safe zone, or a coffee zone, if you know, you know, but there was also an item location right next to it, and the way these work in Alan Wake 2 is totally random, meaning you get a different item every time you open one. And I was trying to get the flashbang because there's an enemy encounter that happens right outside this door heading back to where we need to go, and upon using a flashbang on one of the paint enemies, you get the trophy called Whirls of Color, which is exactly what I did once I got the flashbang items RNG. Then just walking over and throwing it right after 2 of them actually slipped out of the walls. Here's a trophy pop. These paint enemies, by the way, cannot die from anything that we currently have, so you legit just need to run away from them or just stun them, obviously with a flashbang. But after that, we took the elevator once more and headed down to floor -3. We also encountered the main antagonist of this facility, being the elusive talking painting. Not very good at small talk, and the painting just ended up yelling at our asses after a little while. You then got another flash and everything goes back to a relatively more normal tone, and that's kind of how the DLC flows. You do a little exploring, make it far enough to reach a new area, and then there is a scene like that which is just craziness before it swaps back to a relatively normal reality. On the 3rd floor, there wasn't much happening at the start. However, we did see that the entire room was just filled up with typewriters going crazy. Now, if you guys remember what happened in Alan Wake 2, typewriters are not good at all. In fact, they are very, very evil, so this was shockingly ominous despite it being literally just typewriters, an inanimate object in a room by itself. Anyways, I then left the room, went down a hallway, only to turn the corner and be confronted with the typewriter room again. And this was very odd, but nothing new in the Alan Wake universe. Agent Estevaz also explains this in her voiceover, talking about the rule of 3. Basically, anytime something weird happens, just go through whatever that may be 3 times to find the real exit or solution to the problem at hand. Its Illusion actually paying attention to a game. Oh my god, boys, we finally bullied him into it.
Oh my god!
Also, during this Rule of 3 thing, a bunch of enemies finally showed up and I took them out no problem at all because this game's story difficulty is quite literally a cakewalk. It's kind of gross how easy it is. I also did start the first Alan Wake 100% cleanup, and boy, that game is disgustingly harder in comparison. Anyways, once you get past the third run through the typewriter room, you end up having to do another puzzle afterwards, but it's just the simple power puzzle having us literally just pick up the battery, then place it in the corresponding area. Very straightforward. That then powers up a switch outside, and upon flipping it down so dramatically, it opens a gateway into another hall right next to us, which leads us to another boss man paint talk, and it's the real way out of this reality shift. That then led me to the elevator finally, and I chose to go to floor 2 this time, which was previously not available if you're wondering. Inside of floor 2, there also wasn't much going on at first besides a plethora of collectibles, but eventually I waltzed into where all the workers were either lying around dead or where they had turned into enemies. Thankfully, everyone was locked away, so we didn't get jumped like my father did at a Detroit Lions football game in winter of 2016. Detroit, man. But also, while in floor 2, I did get the key card that is inside of the floor, and just needed for further investigation of the facility because it allows for more floor access on the elevator. Doing this, though, kind of freed up the floor and all the enemies got loose, leaving me with just performing mass eliminations of deadly forces. And I must clarify, these are deadly forces. And that was pretty much it for the floor, so I then headed back to the elevator and actually went back to floor 1. Because on this floor, you cannot access a room that was previously unavailable due to us not having clearance. And in that locked room was none other than the gun we can use when they paint enemies, along with the level 3 clearance card, which is actually the last one you get in the game and needed to access everything in the facility. But after picking up the gun, I also got the trophy called Trial and Error. And I got another trophy after I walked outside and shot this paint enemy who was about to form from the wall, getting me the trophy, pull the painting out right here. Anyways, that was it for this floor for good, so I then headed back to 2 because there's actually one more door there that was previously shut, which I can now open with the level 3 clearance card. And inside there wasn't anything besides a collectible and one enemy. But after dealing with both, you have to just sit there and watch this video of scientist Rudolph Lane explaining what he plans to do and ultimately his fate out of this world, or into it, if you will. But I did get a bit restless because I was unsure if I was actually in the right place, and if you walk away but come back before it's over, the trophy does still pop. And I know that's because that's what I did, but here it is right here from discovering the fate of Rudolph Lane. And if you're wondering what that was, he became the paint monster thing that we've been encountering numerous times, so that's neat. And we actually confronted him right away after, but nothing changed in his demeanor, and we were met with the same fate as before, just getting screamed at. However, that did finish up everything I was supposed to do across all the floors aside from 4A and 5, which are the major endgame ones, so I headed down to 4 next. And this is the real last floor, with 5 being more of just an ending floor. But this one had a bit of a maze inside of it to reach the final area in the back, and in this maze there was a lot of enemies, one of every type as a matter of fact, which is very good for us because the trophy called Less Carrot More Stick is from defeating one of each enemy in this DLC with the Black Rock Launcher, and that's the name of the special gun we have, by the way. So I just did that. It wasn't very hard. The trophy popped after my final kill on them. I then just navigated the maze to reach the final little area here, and nothing crazy actually happened inside of it. And I did also manage to get my last 2 collectibles, both for those collectible trophies, which is very nice. First being the hard work trophy from solving all passwords, then the floor by floor trophy from reading all the FBC files and documents. That then left us with 2 more trophies remaining, as being from the story, so we officially broke the mystical trophy chains holding us down. Anyways, the story went on with us having another Rule of 3 moment, having to pull this light chain 3 times, and then we actually got teleported to the Lakeview Motel, which is a midpoint between all realities from my understanding and kind of a playing ground. But this time it was all weird and just not right. It ultimately led us into another FBC facility, but one that is not near Lake Cauldron at all. And inside they had a captured man, and this is also the same dude I think the Control game was about, and if it's not, then my apologies. But the dude just chatted us up for a minute before a very weird cutscene thing happened. Our girl Estevaz was spitting some angelic bars, but then it just ends and I got a trophy from speaking with Dylan, who was the dude we just spoke to before losing it. Anyways, then headed back down to the elevator one more final time and obviously chose floor 5 as the destination. Inside of floor 5 you mostly get cutscenes because this is where the threshold happened and all the anomalies started from, and you basically find out that the Marmots, who are a character in the world, started everything and we hate them deeply, if that. But then they actually come out of the shadows and one of them kills the other. Very graphically, mind you. We might have to bleep that one out, Jamie. Anyways, you then take rain after and have to fight the final Marmot chick, and one single bullet kills her, so anticlimactic ending, I guess. But then you just shut down the machine doing this threshold BS, and Estevaz gets joined to a completely dark place. Also seeing Alan Wake typing away creating the story at hand, and this was cinema, I'm not gonna lie. However, once you get close enough to Alan, it ends suddenly, and you then end up outside where we all started. Was it all a dream, I asked myself. But then the final trophy of the DLC pops, and that is Alan Wake 2 100% finished with. So yeah, that was pretty fun. I think I unfortunately kind of the game when I first did it because I was just super confused, but now that I understand what's happening, it goes very hard. Alan Wake 2 is goated, and I hope you all enjoyed this video once more, and I'll see you in the next one.